Hello, today we're going to be doing an iPhone X screen and rear replacement. So the iPhone X has cracked on the screen and the rear is fully cracked as well. So I'm just going to go over some of the tools that you'll need for this repair. So to start off, you'll need the SIM tray remover, because you'll need to take out the SIM tray. You'll need your iSesmo to take off the screen and get behind a few things. You'll need some tweezers, some flat-headed tweezers. We'll need some pointed tweezers. We'll need your tri-wing screwdriver. You'll need a Phillips screwdriver. We'll need your pentalobe screwdriver to do the bottom screws, and then we'll need a spudger to move some connectors. You also need a tray to put all the screws that you take out, so you can put them in the correct order, so when you put them back into place you know exactly where they came from. You might need a few of these because doing the strip down on this, there is a lot of screws. So you might need a few of these, or a magnetic mat where you can actually write down where they came from will be helpful. Right, so as per normal, start off with making sure the phone is completely off. So the phone is off. And then what you want to do is start off with the bottom two screws. So use your pentalobe screwdriver for this. Right. Once those are out, we'll need to then take off the screen. So to take the screen, you want to get your iSesmo. You just want to go in from the bottom. These, compared to the other phones, have a thicker bezel, so you want to go a little bit deeper than normal. And all that you're trying to do is just break the adhesive of the screen. You just want to go all the way around the edges. Get to a point where you can get your fingers in it just to give it a little bit more lever, and you want to go all the way down the edges. And same with the other side. And this side is the right side is the side you need to be careful with, because it does have the cables for the screen and the front camera. And then the top you don't want to go in too deep either, because it's got the front camera there. So if you go in too deep, you could end up hitting that front camera, and you'll have a lot of problems if you damage the front camera. Right, so there we go. Right, so the phone opens up like a book, so it opens up from left to right. So there we go. So once that's open, we'll then need to, first thing, always unplug the battery. So it's got 5 screws down the side here, down this middle plate. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You need to undo all of those, and those you'll be using the tri-wing screwdriver. Like I said, try and put all these screws in an order that you can put them back in, and you'll know exactly where they go. Awesome. So once you've done all those screws, you can just lift up that plate. There we go, and that will reveal all the connectors underneath it. So the first connector you want to lift up is the one that's connected to the battery. So that will be, it's kind of got like a lower platform and a higher platform. So those will be lower and those will be higher. So it's the first one on the higher one that you want to disconnect. You can see the little battery cable goes down to it. So that's the one you want to disconnect first, because that is your actual battery cable. Right, after that you want to take off the screen itself. So you've got two connectors, which is the lower one here, the higher one there, and then you want to take the first one off on the left hand side of the bottom row. So you can use your nails for this, or you could use the flat end of a spudger, and you can just go in and lift it up. With a spudger, be very careful because you could end up hitting some chips with it. So you just want to go in gently and lightly and lift it up. So that's the screen connectors unplugged and the one for the front camera. So the front camera one is got a little bit of adhesive down the bottom here. So you just want to lift it up and hold the cables down on the other side so it doesn't take the cables with it. Right. Just along a little bit there. Right. So that's the screen off. So the screen you can put to one side for now. So what we need to do is we need to take out the whole insides of the iPhone X. Right. So to start off, it's probably easier taking out the battery first. So the battery is these two parts here, and they are connected together, so you have to take them out all at once. You can't take off the top one and then the bottom one, they are the same thing. And for that, it has a little adhesive that is under it. So on the top part of it, you see this little flap bit. You want to take that off first. Obviously, with using metal tweezers like I am and sharp ones, just be very careful because you can end up poking the battery or damaging one of these cables. So just be very careful. You can obviously use your flat end tweezers, but you just need something that can pretty much grip this. And then what you want to do is once you've got a hold of it, you just want to gently pull it out, and you can hear it pulling out. So once that's done, you can then lift up the battery. Like I said, it comes as one whole piece. As you can see, it's got this bit at the bottom here that puts them together. So that is one whole piece. So we put that to the side. Right, so now that the battery's out, we can start removing pretty much everything else. What we'll do is we'll remove the dock first. So the dock has this long cable that goes up here and is attached by that screw there. So you just want to unplug it first. And you want to get your tri-ring screwdriver and just remove that screw there. And then we're going to move all the screws on the dock. So you've got quite a few screws all over there. We'll just remove all those. Like I said, this is a good point where if you're using magnetic mat, you can write them all down exactly where they go. Some of these screws will be tri-ring screws, some of them will be Phillips screws. So we'll just get the majority of the tri-ring ones done first.
Right, so there's all the top there, the tri-rings ones done. Now move on to the Phillips screw ones. Right, so that's all the ones on the surface taken out. So now what you want to do is lift off this little plate at the bottom here. Kind of goes all the way across. Just want to lift it out. It is connected at the bottom here. So don't lift it out all the way, you just want to kind of get it to a point where you can feel it being loose in there.
Once you get it loose, you can kind of lift it up and lift it back. And you can see right under there, there is a little connector. And that will be part of this little bracket. So you want to lift that up. So this is where you can get your spudger, just with the pointy bit, get in there, clip that up. And that will be that little part off. Once you get that part off, we can move to the rest of the dock. So you have this little shield over there. Just want to lift that one up. And then lift up that little connector as well. Alright, so we're going to remove some of the other screws on it in the moment. Right, so what you want to do is you want to remove that screw there and that screw there. Those are turret screws. So what you can use for that is you can use your pencil lobe screwdriver, just go in the middle of them, and that should turn them out. Alright, so once that's done, you can lift up this little plate here. We can lift up the loudspeaker. Which is attached by some foam at the bottom here. So you can just lift it straight up. And all the foam will break at the bottom there, but we'll put some new ones on. Alright, so now what we'll move is remove the Taptic engine. So you just want to disconnect this little connector here, and you'll see the Taptic engine will just kind of pop out. Right, so the only thing we've got left is the one turn screw there, and the two screws that are holding the dock into the frame. So we'll remove those. There we go. I'll remove those two screws at the bottom there. Alright, so that's those screws out now as well. Brilliant. So you don't want to remove the actual dock cable yet, because it's got this long cable that goes all the way down there. So we'll just leave it like that for now. We'll move on to actually taking out the main board itself. Right, so to do that, we need to unplug all these connectors. So just go down the board, unplugging them one by one. Make sure the little foam that sits around it doesn't come with it. Right, so there'll be all those connectors unplugged from there. So it's probably a good time to remove the SIM tray. Alright, so now what you need to do is, there is a connector underneath there as well, which we'll get to in a bit. But what we're going to do is we're going to take out the screws that are holding the board in place. So you've got that screw there, we've got a screw there, and then generally this bracket that sits around the rear camera kind of holds it in place as well. So we're going to remove all those screws. So for the frame one, you can, for the camera frame one, you can remove that one, and you can remove the one on the other side. Alright, so all those screws are out now. This little camera frame is a bit of a nightmare. It's not easy to get out when the actual board is in. So you see it's catching up the top there. So you don't want to remove this right now, you just want to kind of leave it there. What we need to do is we need to remove this main board. So like I said, it's got a little connector that's connected under there. But so that screw there as well. I removed that one already, but yeah, that screw there needs to come out as well because that kind of connects to the board. So you need to remove that one as well. It's just a little bracket that sits in there that pushes the board down and makes connection to the board. So once all those are out, you should be able to lift up the board. Make sure the connectors aren't getting pulled and ripped out. Like so. Right, now we need to remove that little connector from the bottom here. So the connector from the bottom is a little bit of a nightmare because it kind of connects from this way over, and then it's got another cable, ribbon cable that sits over the top of it. So what you can do is you can try and get in there and try and lift it up. You also do have the little ribbon cable that sits over the top of it, which you can pull back. Obviously with all ribbon cables that you pull off, just be very careful. You don't want to get to a point where you rip the ribbon cable, because then you'll get problems and you have to replace something else on it. So once that ribbon cable is out of the way, you can see the connector sitting underneath it. Right, so the best way to undo that connector is, it's got a little bit of foam on it as well, which kind of doesn't help, and it makes it a little bit awkward to see where the actual ribbon cable connects in. But what you generally can do is get a little sharp tweezer in there. You don't want to be too rough with it. You just want to kind of move it out the way and just get under the connector. All that you need is a slight little bit underneath the connector to just lift it up. But be very careful because you can stab the board and you can hurt a lot of things there. But once that's up, you should just be able to lift the board out and it'll come up. So there. The connector for that one is a little bit weird as well. So you just need to be very careful with that one. So once that's done, you can see why we didn't remove the dock. So that dock's got that ribbon cable that goes all the way up there and all the way along to there. So if we try to take out that dock, we'd have to get to that point where it lifts up here and then wait until we take out the board. So we might as well just take out the board, leaving it in place. Right, so what you can do now is you can just start peeling back a little bit of the ribbon cables. You want to kind of make sure that the adhesive for the ribbon cable comes with it, because the problem you've got is when we're putting it into the new rear, if it doesn't have the adhesive with it, it won't sit into place. You'll kind of have to put it there and it'll move around. So if you have the adhesive that comes with it, you can just stick it back into place. Right, so what you want to do now is you just want to remove the front camera part. This front camera you need to be very careful with. This front camera controls the Face ID. Obviously if you damage that, you're not getting the Face ID back. It's kind of like the home buttons with the fingerprint sensors. If you replace them, you can't get the fingerprint touch back. So if you replace this camera, you got problems. So yeah, we'll take that out and just be, like I said, be very careful. So you've got one screw there that you need to take out. Right. So with taking it out, you don't want to just pull it straight up. You kind of want to push it a little bit to the bottom, and just be very gentle, and you can take it up. Because what it kind of does is it kind of sits in. So if you just kind of pull it up, you could end up hurting some of the stuff on the back. You kind of just want to like wiggle it around just until you feel it can lift up and pull it out. Right, so now we need to take out the rear cameras. So that there you still can't take out, because like I said, it's trapped behind the back there. Right, so with that out, you want to remove this rear camera. The best way to do it is kind of just by lifting up that connector and out. So you kind of like, you pull it up just to get to the point where it's not sitting behind the frame anymore, and you can pull it out. Obviously we could do that before, but there's really no point in it until we're actually taking out the rear camera. Right, so that's out. Obviously when you're taking out that little cable, watch out for this little cable. It shouldn't hurt it by taking out that, but obviously now that it's lifting up, you could end up catching it, so just watch out about that little cable. Right, so getting out the rear camera, the top here, you kind of got like a little bit that you can grab onto. You just want to pull it out. Just be very careful. Don't like just yank it out. Just slowly ply it out, and you'll feel it kind of popping out, because it's got all this foam that's kind of stuck down to the bottom. It should take the foam with it, and you should get the whole portion of the foam with it, with the adhesive sticky part on it. So pull that out. Right, so what we're probably going to do now is we're going to take out the actual dock itself. So we're just going to kind of peel off all this cable. Obviously with peeling up cable, you want to be very careful, because peeling a cable you can end up damaging by doing it. So you just want to kind of pull it up and just do it very slowly, very slowly. I mean, obviously one good way to do it and good helper for it is applying some heat, but you don't want to apply too much heat. Using sharp tweezers, not always good. So generally use the flat tweezers for this, just so it doesn't do, you can't pierce it pretty much, which if you pierce it will do a lot of damage. But like I said before, you want to kind of get the adhesive to come with it. So obviously when you're pulling up this cable, just watch out for this cable here. Kind of goes all the way to the back there. You just want to gently pull it up, and obviously this bit here you've got frame that the cable sits underneath. Just watch out for that. You don't want to pull it up and damage it on that frame. What we'll probably do is we'll probably end up removing that frame. It'll probably be a little bit easier. So for the frame, it's got a few screws down there. We can just take that off. That way removing the cable will be a little bit easier. So I'm just going to remove those 3 screws. I don't know if I said this in the start, but by no means is this an easy repair. Doing a frame swap is generally hard on most devices because you have to remove literally everything, which does make it a little bit complicated, and obviously you've got a lot of screws everywhere, so you just want to be very careful. Right, so once that frame's out, you've then got room to actually lift up this whole entire cable, just a lot easier. Okay, right, so once you get to this point here where it's got the little turn in it, you don't want to be yanking at it too much, because it can just split at that, because it's kind of like a fragile point. So what you want to probably get then is just the back of your spudger and just go down it, because that way it kind of gives it a better little point to work at instead of just trying to pull at it. Right, so what you want to do is just do the same all the way down. Obviously this part here, very weak point again. Wherever there's a little cutout or a little turn in the cable is a very weak point. So you just want to be very careful about that. Just with your spudger, just go in there gently, just pushing at it slowly, just so you can lift up the adhesive little bit by little bit. Like I said, one way to do it where it makes the cable a lot easier to come off, and comes off with all the adhesive as well, is by using a little bit of heat to it, and that generally helps getting it off without damaging it, because the adhesive's kind of weak. Then you can just kind of pull it up and the whole thing will just come off. Right, so what you just need to do now is on the bottom here for the little mic, it's attached to this little bracket over here. You just want to kind of take it away from the bracket, just held by a little bit of adhesive, to just be gentle. Get your flat metal tool in there and you'll get it to a point where it lifts up. It should come off with all the adhesive as well, so you can stick it back to the new frame. But that lifts up like that. Right. So we're just going to get behind the bottom part now. Obviously when there's chips on the board or stuff like that, you need to be very careful as well, because you could end up damaging chips on the main board. So obviously behind there you're a little bit blind underneath there, but like I said, you get to any point where you feel it's not going anywhere, don't push anymore, just kind of stop, kind of assess the situation, see why it's doing it, just so you don't end up just forcing at it. Because the worst thing you can do on iPhone repairs, or pretty much any repair, is just force something. You want to kind of find out why it's struggling to come out, and that generally gives you a better idea of what's going on. Right, so just got this little tape on the top here. You don't have to remove it, you can just pull it out with it. It's just something that we remove off. Alright, it's being a little bit of a pain to come out. So one other thing you can do is you can try and go in through the dock. Obviously with this, just apply a little bit of pressure just so you can see the dock coming off. You can swap these cables around to just get this top part off. It just makes it easier in getting to the bottom part. So just take the top part off first. And that just gives us a little bit better room to work with at the bottom, and we're kind of not going in blind and we can see what we're doing. So like I said, with this, just be careful. If you get to a point where the flathead or the spudger is not working properly, you can use a metal tool, but be very, very careful with metal tools. Metal tools are never good when it comes to connectors, or I mean to ribbon cables. because you can slip and you can cut it, or you can just put too much force in it and it can go straight through the cable. So yeah, with those, be very careful. Just carry on applying it, and we'll just get it up. Like I said, just be very gentle. Try not to put too much force in it. And you can slowly feel it lifting up as you go along. Like that. Now we lift it up, and this come with all the adhesive on the back of it as well. So that'll be the dark part taken off. So it's the whole bottom area lifted up. Probably have to transfer over some of these brackets as well, just because the new one might not have them. But if they do, then great. So right, what we're going to do now is I'll have to remove this little top flex at the top here, which will involve the the volume button, sorry, and the mute switch. So we're just going to have to lift that up. Right, so what you're going to need for that is you're just going to need your screwdriver again, which take out some of the screws off it. This screw here does come with a little plate on the back of it, so just be careful. And then we'll do the same with that one there, which again has another little plate on it. Then we'll remove this one here. We'll use a tri-wing screwdriver, and that one will have another little plate on it as well. Right. And then what you want to do is you want to remove these two screws at the top here. So that's those two screws at the top removed as well. So here we go. Alright, so that little cable then is connected to, like I said, the mute switch and the buttons. So what we'll do is we'll remove those screws down the side there as well. There's 4 screws, so remove all 4 of them. Right, so now what we'll do as well, because obviously this cable here has some of the stuff on it as well, so we'll leave that for now, and we'll just remove this top part off. So again, with the cables, you just want to be very careful. So once that's done, we need to then remove the power button cable, which also has the flash on it, which is the back there, the flash. So you've got 2 screws that's on this side that you need to remove. That little cable is a little cable that runs all the way down here and all the way at the back there. Alright, so with this cable you need to be very careful because it's got a lot of bits of fold over and go around stuff. So we'll start off with actually removing the power button cable part of it. So we'll just pull this all the way across. Like I said, just be very gentle with it. lifting it all the way up and around. So once you get past the top bit, you don't want to then yank on that cable. You want to pull both these two cables together very gently, which will then lift up this part here. You can see that's where the flash is, and under that it's got a little cable for a mic. So we'll need to lift that up as well. So what you want to do is there is a little kind of rubber seal around it. It just kind of sits over the cable. So you want to lift that up first. Once that's lifted up, you want to then remove that mic. So the mic is a little bit of a tricky point. Generally, the best thing to do is to grab the rear lens, and you don't want to like pull it too hard. So just get something to kind of help you separate it, the adhesive from the back of it, as you kind of gently tug at it. You want to kind of get underneath that rear mic, and you can feel it coming up, and that will bring it out. So that will be that part removed. Right, so that's majority of the top part removed. So now what we want to do is this little cable over here you want to remove, which has got a little screw at the top there. Right. So once that's removed, just want to lift up this little cable over this little screw bit, and it kind of sits along the top here. So like I said, it's got a little joint there, so you want to be very careful. You're trying to not rip any cables. Majority of like I said, are stuck down with adhesive, so you want to try and just get behind all the adhesive. Right, so now what we need to do, which is kind of like the final step, is just remove the back charger with the buttons. So we'll just remove all that. Right, so this again is another tricky one, because you have to remove this whole back charger. But what we'll do is we'll remove the last little few screws on the side here. So there's got a little 1, 2, 3, 4 screws on the side here. Just want to remove them. So this has a little plate that sits on the top side here as well. Just want to remove that. This cable here is very thin, so you just want to be very careful with that. Just go along as slowly, lifting little bit by little bit, and then stop just before you get to the bend. And you want to remove all these parts here as per normal. Be very careful, watch out for the ribbon cable, because you want to try and pull out this without damaging the ribbon cable. So, and just go around slowly, and then lift up that part there, and then we'll continue from this part here, and that will bring out all that. So that's all that out. So now all that we need to do is just remove this back plate, this back charger. Right, so generally the best way to remove this back charger is by heat. I'm going to see if I can do it a little bit without heat, and if it comes to a point where I'm not getting it, we're going to have to switch to heat. Unfortunately, I won't be able to show that on the camera as I don't have that station by me. Alright, so I'm just going to quickly heat this up, so I'll cut the video here and I'll be back in a few seconds. Alright, so it's back now. Just put some heat on the back of this. So this should be able to come up a lot easier now. I do suggest heating it up. Obviously you can try it without, but the chances of you ripping it is very high compared. It's not the easiest one to do. But what you want to kind of do is just get underneath the cable. Alright, so I'm just going to go around slowly. Just lift it up a little bit by a little bit. Because I've applied some heat onto it, you can feel it like just kind of pull itself off almost. Like I said, I do suggest using heat on this one. It's not the best if you don't use heat. Right, like so. That should bring off the whole thing. Generally if you use heat as well, it should bring off it with the adhesive as well. We just need to clean up the adhesive there a little bit, but it should bring the whole thing off, like so. Right, so that is literally everything that we kind of need to take out. Yeah, like I said, we might need to come back down to these little brackets and take them out as well, but for now that's majority everything. Obviously it does have the buttons in there. Generally with most new rears it comes with the buttons in it, so we'll just use those buttons, but we'll come back to this if we need to transfer anything over. So what we'll do now is we'll get a new rear out. Like I said, these rears come with buttons, but that is the new rear. Just put loads of finger marks on it, but there we go. So we'll just generally do pretty much the steps backwards now. So what we'll do is we'll take off this first, this little cover, and then we'll put the rear charging on, wireless charging. Put that in place. So the cable goes to the top side. You just want to kind of get it in the center, like so. Once that's on, we'll pretty much screw this back into place straight away. So that will go in there. Just make sure that everything's kind of in place. So screw that back into place. All that we need to do is just put the two volume buttons in there. So like I said, it's come with its own volume buttons, but generally they forget to put some of the stuff on it, which is a bit annoying. So we will come back to the old one and we'll just take off those buttons. So they've got this little bar that sits here, and pretty much you just want to pull it to one side till it disconnects, and then pull it the other side, and it's just a little bar that sits there. So you want to take off that one, and you want to take the other one off, And then to take off the actual buttons itself, it's got this little bracket that sits kind of behind it. And I don't know if you can see in this one, but the way they pretty much go is they kind of lift up. See if I can get it right. Right. So let's see if I can get it. So you go right to the edge, pushing the button as well, just so it like pushes the button this way, and you can get some lever. You see, I kind of clips there. It's got a little clip there, and then once that's done, you just kind of grab it and pull it up, and that will bring that out. Same for the other one. Lift it up and pull it up. So those are the bits that generally they don't come with on the new buttons. So we'll leave the old buttons in there because we don't need them. If you do want to take them off, all that you need to do is just push them through this side and they'll come out. But we don't need them yet. So we'll put those new parts to the top here. And you want to get the two volume buttons. Right, so one of the volume buttons didn't come with the little paddings on it. So what we'll do is we'll get the old rear, push out the actual button. And as you can see, it's got these little kind of O-rings that sit around them, little black O-rings. One of the new ones didn't come with them on it, so we're just gonna take them off. So you just pretty much need some pointy tweezers. Just want to get underneath it and pull it out. Obviously they are not the easiest things to get out. When taking them out, they can actually tear, which is even more annoying. Right, and luckily one of them came with it, so we're just going to get out the other volume button as well. I mean, obviously you don't have to transfer these, but we try and transfer everything to make it back to as best we can. Right, so putting these on, not easy as well. Kind of just need to hold it and push it down with your nail, and then bring the other side over the top. So that's both of them now with O-rings. So what we're going to do is we're going to put them into the new rear. So it doesn't matter which way they go, both just push in. Once those are in, we can then put these back in. So pretty much these just go the opposite of what they came out as. Just get the one side with the bit that's straight down. Push it in, you can feel it click, and then press the other side down. And the best way to know that they're in is you can move it backwards and forwards. That way you know it's all down. And you do the same with the other one. Right. Once those are in, I'll put these little bars back. So they kind of sit in on one side. And then clip in on the other side. You push them down. Do that for both sides. There we go. Alright, so once those are in, we'll screw this back into place. Right, and then all we need to do is screw those back into place. Like I said, this is where it becomes vital for you to put the screws back, or in a place that you can put them back in the same way they came in. Right. So with those buttons, you make sure they are clicking, and you get them into the exact place that they need to go. Because if you don't feel them clicking, then you're going to have a problem with them not working.
Everything here, but those are clicking, so that's good.
They do take a little bit of adjusting, but once you screw them into place, they generally should find their own way. There. Once they're nice and tight, you can feel them click again. Make sure the mute switch works as well. Make sure everything's nice and tight, that way you know they'll definitely click. Right, so then I need to screw in this bottom part. So that little bracket that came out, that goes with the kind of U-bend at the bottom, and the bit that kind of can open up at the top. So we're going to screw those in first.
Then you want to screw the other plate in. There we go. So once that's done, you can feel all the adhesive has stuck back into place, and those all line up again. Right. So all we need to do now
Is on the old one, there's a few little bits that you need to transfer over as well. One being the little bracket on the bottom side here, so it's just 2 screws for that. And then that little bracket comes off. Same thing, make sure the little U-bends at the bottom, and we'll screw those back into place as well. Right. So that's those into place. Another thing we'll transfer is on this side here. It's got a little bracket as well. So that has 1 screw. Just want to undo that one. And that just pops out. Little pad that sits over the top of it. And then a little bracket. So we'll just put that back into place. Same thing, little U-bends at the bottom. So we'll kind of screw that in a little bit. And then we'll put in this little black kind of pad that sits over the top of it. So you just want to screw it in a little bit just so you can hook the pad over the top. And then we'll screw it in the rest of the way. and then make sure the pad kind of stays in place. Alright, so the last two things you want to transfer is these two at the brackets at the bottom here. Kind of just want to get your assessment in. They are not easy pads to replace, since I believe they kind of are glued into place, which is why most new rears come with them. Ours unfortunately didn't. Alright, so like I said, these things are not the easiest to do. They are kind of glued into place, so it'll be a little bit hard to remove them. But we'll try and do it as best we can without breaking them at all. Obviously there's certain things you look at when buying a rear, and this is one of them that you should generally get in them. So you can see all the glue there was glued into place. So that's one of them. And do the same for the other one. Alright, so just putting this back into here. Make sure it's nice and flush. And then, due to the other one breaking, I'm just going to put some padding over this one, just to stop any dirt from getting in through. So, what we need to do now is we're going to put the dock in. So you need to get this cable first. Only goes in one way. Pretty much sits over all the little screw connectors. So it'll kind of sit in and kind of sit in one way. That's pretty much it. It won't kind of go anything past that. It'll just kind of be that, and that's it. And then we'll put in the dock connector over that. So same thing, only goes in one way, sits straight over the top of it. Like so. Make sure you line up the bottom mic, so that's in place, and the rest of it kind of just sits over the top. I'm going to push down this whole entire connector as well. And then what we'll do is we'll just screw it a little bit into place, because that will lift up. So we want to do the dock first.
Do the bottom two screws first for the dock. Both those screwed in. Right, so once that's screwed, I'll
kind of hold it into place. The rest of it will move around slightly. Right, so then we want to put the rear flash in. So that kind of put down the mic first, and then put the flash cable over it. And then we need to get the power button. I'm going to slot that in. And with the power button, we'll need to do the same thing as the volume buttons and remove the little bit from the old power button. And then we'll put this on the new power button. Probably shouldn't have put the dock in first. Makes it a little bit complicated to see what's going on, and you can damage some stuff. So that should be fine. And we'll put the little bar in. Right, so screw that into place. I do apologize. Make sure you put this little bracket in first. This little kind of rubber bracket in. Make sure you put that in before you end up putting down the rear flash. Then you want to screw the power button in.
being in your case, sometimes these threads won't be 100%, so you just need to work with it. I'll probably do that one first, give that a try. Right, I'm going to this one. Like so. Let's see. Make sure it's got a click. The screw doesn't look like it's going quite right. There we go.
Make sure you got that click on it and you can hear it. And then we just want to lay down this cable properly again. So make sure it goes all the way to the back and it sits all the way down. Like so. We can push this cable down again. With the adhesive, sometimes they don't quite stick 100% after you're lifting it up. It should be fine. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to screw this little plate that went over here. Screw that back into place. Right, so it's all screwed into place. Then going to put this cable back into place. the one little screw that goes in the top. Make sure when this is sitting down that the cable is all the way flush and it's not sitting too high. So right, so what we'll do now is we'll put in the rear camera. Just to hold all that in place. And then you want to put this little bracket over the top. Bracket goes under this little cable here. And make sure you slot the top bit in and down. You can put the vibration motor back into place. So put the vibration motor down first. Then put the loudspeaker over the top of that. We'll put this little bracket in over there to hold that in place. Like so.
So I'll put the screw back into it. Now we'll put this plate back over the top. So we're going to connect it back in there. And we'll put this plate over the top of it again. The screw wasn't meant to go there. To go there. Right. So you can screw this back into place. Here's the thing with having so many screws, you need to make sure you remember where they all go, which is one of the hardest little steps. These last two screws into the vibration motor. There we go, so that's the dock all nice and in again. We'll put this little screw over this connector here. Right. Probably wait until we put the main board in to put that screw back in place for now.
Right, so now we need to put in this top plate.
And that goes in like that. So we'll just screw that back into place.
Alright, and remember all those ones that came with little brackets on them? We're going to put those into place as well. So the long bracket goes over So that long bracket goes on the top there. So when putting this bracket in, make sure it's pointing to the top, and it kind of goes up like that. And then this little bracket only goes one way, which is like so, with a little bendy pointy up at the top. Like so. The other little bracket, which will go on the left hand side here, with the little point, the bit that points out to the bottom, like so. Right, so that's the top part put back into place. Before we put the front camera on, this last little screw needs to go in there. Right. So put that in, and it's got a weird way of going down, but it goes all the way to the edge pretty much, and it kind of goes underneath, so this little bit here kind of goes under that bit there, so it kind of slots underneath it and kind of sits there. Alright, we'll put this screw in the top here as well. Put that in the top there as well. Right. So now we put in the main board. So the main board only goes in one way with all the connectors facing to you. And you need to make sure you don't trap any of these connectors underneath, because obviously there's a lot of connectors in here. So just be very careful. Obviously that little connector at the top there that we struggled to get out before, you want to make sure that you kind of lift that up as well, so you can get all of this in without sitting on any cables. So there's a lot of cables you need to watch out for. Just make sure you've got every single cable on the top. Pretty much you'll feel the board won't go into place if you've got some connectors that are sitting underneath it, but just be very careful. Make sure you've got them all on the top and it's sitting nice and flush and all the screw holes line up. Once that's in place, you can start popping down all the connectors again. And we'll push down this connector here as well. This connector you kind of just need to feel, and you'll feel kind of when it is in the right point, and you'll feel it clip in. It's not the easiest connector to put down, but you'll kind of feel when it goes in. Right. So what we need to do now is we need to put down all the screws for the board itself. So we'll start off with this one down the side here. Just kind of sits over the top. We'll screw that into place.
I'll put the other screws in. Make sure the connector's down as well.
Alright, so just make sure all the screws are back into place. Make sure you haven't missed any out. That's the last thing you want, is to miss any screws out of this. Alright. So there we go. Once you're pretty confident that all the screws are back in, put in the SIM tray as well. Alright, so now what you need to do is we need to put the battery back in. So you'd need some new adhesive. You want to peel off all the blue bits. Make sure the adhesive doesn't stick to the blue bits, which it shouldn't do. Alright, and then you pretty much just move out of the way, lay the battery down so the top of the connector, the silver bit, is at the bottom, and you can see all the little gold pins, and you just want to lay that on top, like so. You can fold over these little connectors, these little adhesive parts as well, and you want to make sure that it's nicely pushed down. So just get a flat metal tool, go over the top of it, and then you can peel back all that. So now we'll get the rear again, and then what you want to do is always plug it in first so it's lined up, and then you can pop it down, because then you'll know it'll be in the exact place that you need it to be, and then always disconnect the battery after that. Alright, so for the sake of ease, we've already got the new screen fitted already with the Partly Swap Turbo. We do have another video on that to show how to do the screen. But what you want to do now is you want to get some new adhesive. It only goes in one way. It's got the kind of circular bits for the top cameras. You want to pop that in, and then you just want to run a little tool around the side just so the adhesive takes to the actual rear. Just go all the way around the sides. Obviously just being very careful, try not to slip or put too much pressure on it. Now once that's done, you can peel that off. Like so. And then what you want to do is you want to plug the new screen in. So we'll start off with the top proxy part. So you just want to pop that in, and then we'll pop in the two screen connectors. Alright, so make sure that's all connected in. Then what you want to do is you want to put down the battery connector, and then we'll put over the plate, and we'll screw that all back into place. like so. So once that's screwed into place, what we then need to do is fold it down. So you want to pop the top in first. You want to go to the right hand side and just make sure that those little cables there, don't know if we'll focus on that part, those little cables there are sitting in between the frame and not in between the screen and the frame, like so. Once that's done, you just want to do in the bottom 2 screws. Like so. Then once that's done, turn the device on, and there we go. It's all booting up with brand new rear. Obviously it's got a lot of finger marks on it now from me touching it, but there we go. New screen and rear on an iPhone X, all good as new again. So there we go. New screen and rear, everything's all good and running again. Nice new screen and rear. There we go. Brilliant. So there we go, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Obviously a very long video, but we'll try and do little stages as well. But obviously if you got any questions about it, feel free to comment and ask us questions, really, because it's not the easiest of repairs. It is a long, very long job, and a bit of a nightmare, but once you do it, you feel pretty good. Thank you very much for watching.